Maybe you've always dreamed of owning a property just like this, a vacation rental investment property in Florida. Well, then it's no coincidence that you clicked on this video because we're going to cover everything you would need to know about obtaining and buying an investment property or a secondary vacation home right here in Florida. Maybe you're just looking for a tangible asset to put your money away, something more steady than the stock market. Maybe you're looking for tax depreciation benefits or something just to increase your net worth, pass along to your family, build your legacy, and enjoy several times a year. Whichever category you fall into in that niche, then you've come to the right place. We're going to talk about everything you would need to know, including condos, assessments, hurricanes. We'll talk about single family homes, flood insurance, financing, truly everything. So by the end of this video, you'll be a pro and ready to look at your first investment or vacation property. And stay tuned to the very end because we'll even go over some real life numbers and analyze a couple properties that are on the market right now. Let's go. By the way, real quick, if you're wondering who I am, my name is Levi Fortner. I am a top real estate agent here on the Emerald Coast in the Northwest Florida Panhandle, and I've become so over 7 years of providing good service and winning for my clients. I'm also an active investor myself, and so today I want to pour my knowledge and my experience and expertise into you guys. That's what we're going to do. Let's get into it. Let's talk about condos versus single family homes. It's the first question you're going to want to ask yourself is which one are you leaning towards? And there's a lot of pros and cons to both. Let's talk about condos first. The major pros to owning a condo is that it's going to be far less maintenance. What you will see is you'll see higher condo dues or HOA fees, but that's going to include home insurance, which is huge. A single family home, you would have to pay for the home insurance yourself. Outside of that, with a condo, it's included in the HOA. So really the only thing you're responsible for is the interior of the walls. You never have to mow the lawn, groundskeeping is covered, you never have to worry about the roof, etc. On top of that, you can also have amenities sometimes. For instance, the building I'm in right now called Portofino on Pensacola Beach, there are 5 pools here, there are tennis courts, it's golf front access. I mean, the list goes on. There's on-site restaurants, there's a Starbucks here. It's very much a resort. So that's all included in the high HOA and condo dues. And if you live out of state, sometimes the simplicity of that, the hassle-free worry, very much lock and go, can be a little bit more appealing than a single family home where you have to worry about the lawn and the roof. And again, have your own home insurance. But I don't want to steer you either way. Having the high HOA dues versus paying your own insurance is kind of a wash. The other thing to consider in a condo is you are buying into a business. You're buying into a building that's shared with tons of other owners. There are certain buildings that have lower density, meaning there's not as many owners. It's a small building. Sometimes they don't have amenities. That can be less risk, or just know that it's only on the heads of a few people versus a big building where there's potentially hundreds of different owners. And something to keep in mind is that with a condo, it is a business, like I mentioned. So they have reserves, they have profits and losses. They charge those HOA dues and assume that they have enough to take care of the building, to have upkeep, to cover the insurance cost, etc. There are certain buildings that are not run as efficiently. Sometimes the people want to keep those dues low, and the downside of that is maybe if something happens, it's time to paint and take care of the property, or there's a hurricane, issue. Maybe there's not enough money in there to cover that. And what will happen is they will charge what are called assessments to all the owners in the building, spread out the cost and charge it to each owner. That can be an expense that you're maybe not expecting as an owner. So it's good to analyze each building. A good realtor can help you do that. Look at all those numbers. One thing you want to look at is a previous history of assessments. If they've never had assessments or they've had very few, that can sometimes be a good sign that you wouldn't expect too many more in the future. Another thing you may want to keep an eye out on is there one owner who owns a majority in the building? That can happen occasionally, just a single individual who owns half the building. That's a little risky. That person has a lot of control, a lot of say-so. If they start slacking off, if they don't pay their dues, if they sell all their units at once, etc. Again, these are things, I don't want to freak you out because condos can be amazing. It's just analyzing the building knowing what is good and what's bad, looking at the history and the numbers. But as far as from a peace of mind standpoint, the condo has a lot of appealing aspects. Lock it up, rent it out, and come whenever you want to. Let's talk about a single family home. The main pro, I would say, to a single family home is one, privacy. You actually own that property. You own the home. You're not going to be sharing an elevator or stairs or parking for that matter. You own your own little piece of paradise. If you have a backyard or you're on the Gulf, that's your property. And you own that land. The land is a tangible asset. The condo, you don't own the land. You own into the building. The land itself will continue to go up in value, even in the event of a fire or a hurricane, some sort of disaster, which of course, hopefully the insurance kicks in at that point and has it replaced or fixed. But regardless, you own the actual dirt itself. Will always continue to gain value over time. Historically, that's always been the case. But you will need to have a lawn guy potentially. You want to make sure that your roof's taken care of because you're responsible for it. You're responsible for everything there is with the single family home. Now, I know tons of owners. I've helped a lot of people buy single family homes. They can use property management companies to take peace of mind away. They will eat a little bit of your profits, of course, but you can also self-manage. So at the end of the day, it's always case by case, but you're going to want to probably decide which one's more appealing to you. What have you always envisioned? A condo, a single family home? Single family homes are going to probably come at a much higher price point, at least close to the beach for that matter. Condos you can get for a little bit more affordable because the cost is spread out. So you may be able to get a Gulf front unit or very close for far less than a Gulf front single family home would go for, of course, a lot more. But a good real estate agent will guide you, help you analyze each property individually, tell you if there's more or less risk involved. But that's the first question you're going to want to ask yourself. Let's keep going, get into some more details. Let's talk about closing costs. We are in a competitive market right now, what I would call a buyer's market, meaning you have an edge. You have the ability to negotiate and get all the closing costs. You can even buy down the interest rate using the seller's funds. So closing costs can be covered during negotiations. Additionally, yes, you can close out of state. You can do what's called a remote closing, a mail away, where they will send you the package. They can meet you remotely with a notary, make sure it's you, of course, and you can buy a property completely remote. Of course, you would probably want to have a great agent who can do virtual tours for you, FaceTime walkthroughs, tell you all the good, the pros, the bad, the cons, show you what the surroundings look like, and really just try to help you navigate because you want a local boots on the ground expert. But those are a couple questions I get. Just wanted to throw that in. Let's keep going. Okay, so it is actually spring break right now. It's a little bit crazy out here, but that's something you should actually keep in mind when you're looking at these rental properties. It is very seasonal here. So you're gonna do a lot of your revenue in peak season or those times that you would wanna think about. Summer months, obviously spring break, you are gonna have 4th of July, Memorial Day weekend. All of those days, you're gonna have surge rates and you're gonna do a whole lot more revenue. So you wanna keep that in mind. You're also going to wanna put away some of the profits for the slower season to offset that. And we're actually standing in front of a rental property that we have on the market right now. It's being rented out actively. This is 921 Areola Drive, and it is a really cool property. I wanna show you guys. At the end, we're gonna look at the numbers on this property, but take a quick look right now. Let's talk about financing briefly. There's going to be really two ways that you can go about this. The first option is going to be called a secondary or vacation property, and you're going to be looking at about 10% down is really typically the minimum that you're going to be able to get away with. The advantage here as a secondary home, that means you're going to be able to enjoy the property yourself as frequently as you like, and you will be able to rent it out when you're not here. So it will be an investment property, but it'll just mean that you get to enjoy it with your family, come down as you please, and that will be a category of a secondary or a vacation property. Again, about 10%. Alternatively, if you're just looking at a pure investment property, you have no goal of actually staying in the property whatsoever, and your only desire is to cash flow and make as much money as possible, again, maybe tax benefits, etc. You're gonna be looking at as little as 15%. That's gonna be harder to find. Typically 20 to 25% down for an investment only property that you will not stay in. Now, of course, cash is king, as everyone says, But keep in mind, it's not always necessarily the smartest thing to put all your cash into a property. You may want to keep some of that liquid for other investments. You could potentially buy more properties instead of dumping it all into one, or dump it into stocks, other different varying things. It may make more sense to finance than to buy a property outright. I've got some awesome local lenders. If you're curious and you just want to run some real numbers, let me know. Be happy to share that information with you. That's going to give you the confidence to make the decision, know exactly where you want to be. Of course, the mortgage payment is typically the most important, and then comparing that against the actual rental projections or the income, which we will cover here very shortly. Let's go. Guys, as you can see behind me, that is the Gulf. This is a stunning condo. We are here in Portofino, tower number 5, unit 1703. I'm about to show you some of the actual numbers on this unit because it's active and available, but this is an awesome place. I wanted to share this opportunity with you, and of course, many others. But let's take a look at Portofino Resorts real quick before we keep going. All right, so let's jump into why you actually came here, and let's analyze a couple properties and look at the numbers and the breakdowns, cash flow, rental projections, all that good stuff. Let's jump into it. So first of all, let's start with 921 Areola Drive. I showed you guys just a little bit about it before. This is an active listing that we actually have on the market. It's only being rented out to family and friends, so they are not really taking full advantage of the revenue potential. Really quick, I want to just show a couple of cool things. You always want to think about adding value to a property because peak season here, you're always going to rent out. It's the beach. Everybody comes for the summer. You're pretty much going to be booked. But what will give you an edge in the slow seasons and just in general get you more income, more money, higher nightly rates is going to be adding value, amenities for that matter. So things like, hot tubs, pools. In this instance, one thing we did was we showed that you could easily add a pickleball court to this house, for instance. It already has a massive paved driveway, and so simple paint and a net, and you just added a pickleball court. Really cool, people love that stuff. It's something else to do while you're here besides the beach, so easy value add. Another huge value add, not as cheap, not as easy, but is a pool. Pools also increase the revenue, of course, big time. It is going to be an expense up front unless the property already has a pool, but it's going to separate you from other properties that don't have pools. So just really cool. Just wanted to show that real quick. Thinking outside the box and how you can beat out other properties is going to help give you an edge when you're looking at short-term rentals. But let's actually break down the numbers real quick here on 921 Areola Drive. And here we go. So I have actually broke down some of these numbers here. I pre-populated it. First thing is, this is a mortgage calculator. Okay, these are free online. There's a ton of different ones. They're basically all the same. It's plug and play. You're gonna punch in certain numbers and we'll go over this in detail. But also included the property taxes here. Okay, I went ahead and pulled all this information up. This is public, by the way. Any local county property appraiser, you can find the taxes. On 921 Areola Drive, we're listed at $1.45 million. Okay, property taxes on this property are $10,564 a year. It's a big lot on the beach. I know that looks pricey. It is, but it's an expensive home. I also have the insurance already on this property. That's going to be helpful as well. We have flood, hazard, and wind all together. You're looking at about $14,000 roughly. So we punch in these numbers here. Now, first of all, you're never going to pay full price for a property typically, at least not in this market. And not if you use me as your realtor anyways. But most likely you're going to negotiate. Just for simplicity's sake, I put in full price here, $1.45 million. We're going to do 10% down, which is a secondary or a vacation home. That's the minimum down. 30 years standard fixed. And this is today's interest rate, okay? It's 2025. Currently, they're about at 6.6%. That's the hard part right now in this market, is the interest rates are higher, so it's harder to make these properties pencil out. The upside to higher interest rates, if there is an upside, is that the market has softened. And so as a buyer, you have a lot of negotiation power that you wouldn't have when rates were much lower. Back when rates were at 3%, which we probably won't see again, maybe ever, at least for a long, long time, that was historically low. Historic, okay? Never happened before. When interest rates were that low, guys, it was crazy. Everyone was going way over asking, multiple offers on situations. People were just paying anything for houses, and they were selling in a heartbeat. I mean, sometimes there were 15, 20 offers on properties. It was insane. Obviously, those people are locked in at 3% interest forever, so, I guess it was worth it in the long run. But keep that in mind. The market's softened now. You have an advantage as a buyer. You can beat up the seller on price. You can ask for closing costs, etc. But I digress. Let's assume you have about a 740 credit score. That will affect the interest rate you get. If you have worse credit, it's going to be a little bit higher. Better credit, it's going to be lower. So credit has to do with typically the interest rate. I did the division here, already broke this down. The property taxes are about $880 a month, and the homeowner's insurance breaks down to about $1249 a month. You plug all this in, you hit calculate, and you're looking at $10,521 a month. Now you might think that's a lot. It is. It's $1.5 million property with Gulf views directly across the water. Walk out your door to the beach. But let's look at how we analyze this. Is this a good investment property? Just see these numbers here, that doesn't tell you everything. What we do know is the total cost to own this property is about $126,000 a year. Now we look at the rental projections on this property, and it will start to tell us some information. So here is one of the rental projections. And by the way, this is on Pensacola Beach. This has a projected revenue at $124,670 a year. $124,000. That is going to put you guys at, $2,000 loss a year. But think about that for a second. That means you can own this beautiful beach home, and it basically would cost you about $2,000 a year. Now, that doesn't include any, unforeseen circumstances. This doesn't include property management. But basically, the cost of owning this, $2,000. Some people would say, well, I spend way more than that just taking my family on a vacation 2 or 3 times a year. So you can own this property, and you can't always just think about cash flow, because there are 2 other reasons why this makes sense. One is the tax depreciation benefits and being able to write off interest and certain expenses on the property and taking a standard deduction. So that can be a huge tax advantage. I'm not a CPA, I won't go too much into tax stuff, but just know a lot of people invest in real estate for the tax benefits. And in addition to that, you're also going to be gaining equity over time. As these tenants, these people renting your property, they're the ones basically paying your mortgage. Every time they make a payment, every time you cover it, you're slowly building up the equity versus what you owe versus what the property is worth. And it will also appreciate over time. It will gain value. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. It's not just cash flow, but that is a quick breakdown. And I want to show you real quick the power of interest rates. Here's the exact same property, okay? We're still on the same property. You can do what is called buying down the interest rate. It's basically where you give the lender money up front to buy down the rate permanently. It's still fixed. It's not an adjustable rate. And what's the key in this market is that you can have the seller do that. You can ask for closing costs. And so the seller is actually the one paying that chunk up front to buy down the rate. It doesn't feel like you're coming out of pocket to do that. But in this case, let's say hypothetically we were able to buy the rate down about 1% and you got it down to 5.5%. Now your payment has gone down almost $1,000 a month, and the total cost is $114,000 a year, okay? The projection at 125, sorry, wrong one, 125 here, all of a sudden you are positive. You're gonna be actually making money on this property. Big difference, almost 10 grand positive. So that's a huge difference. We have one other projection on this property, by the way. Let me pull it up here. Here is the same one. Different property manager. These property management companies, they handle a lot of properties on the beach, so they are able to determine what similar properties are renting for, and that's how they give you these projections. This one has it up to $135,000, making that much a year. At $114,000 total cost, if you were to make $135,000, well, you're almost 20 grand positive. This property is now cash flowing. You're gonna make 20 grand a year and own an incredible beach property. Again, they're outside circumstances. You're not paying a management company in this situation, but I'm just breaking down a real life property. And real quick,
before I move on to the next one, I want you to see here why we call it so seasonal. This is the projected income over certain months. Because if you can see here, January, dead slow. It's the first of the year. People aren't really going on vacation. You just had Christmas, cold. But you can see in the summer months, June, July, May, even August, you're doing a ton of revenue. In July, you're expected to do, almost $30,000 in 1 month. June, 23,000. So all I say that for is because you want to put money away for the slow season. You don't want to just take your profits and go, whoa, I made all this money. Understand it's seasonal, and you put that money away, you pay the bills, and you keep it for the off season. And maybe the off season is when you visit more often. Slower, it's more enjoyable on the beach, etc. So I just wanted to mention peak season here is very much a real thing. And the next one is going to be the Portofino Island property that we looked at, the condo with the Gulf views. Gorgeous property, absolutely stunning. It's only a 2-bedroom, but it had all the amenities, the pickleball courts, the pools, the restaurant, Starbucks. You walk out to the Gulf. It is like a resort style. That is a great property. First thing to know is property is listed at $899. Again, for simplicity's sake, we're putting the full price here. And then down here, I've actually broke down, again, the property taxes. And the difference here is the HOA. Remember, it includes the insurance, and it also is going to include the amenities, the groundskeeping, cable TV, trash, water, sewer. Basically, the only thing you're left responsible with is the utilities and the contents of inside the walls. Some people get content insurance, cover damages inside, but you don't need home insurance on exterior. You don't need a hurricane and wind because that's covered in the HOA. So let's break it down here. Again, 10% down, assuming this is at a standard interest rate right now, about 6.7. Property taxes on this are actually much cheaper because it is divided amongst all the owners in the building. So you're not having that big lot that you're paying for with the dirt like the single family home. Property taxes are much cheaper, about $263 a month. And you see no homeowners insurance, but you do see HOA fees. We plug all that in here, hit calculate, and boom, looking at $82,000 a year, okay, to own this property. Here are the projections. This is directly from the condo. The thing about this resort style place, they have in-house management. You do not have to use them, but they manage the whole, 5 towers. They know what they're doing. They know the numbers pretty well. The revenue projection is $77,000 a year. That's what they expect to make. Okay, if you look at that, you're negative here. Your net loss is $5,000, almost $6,000. So again, you own this property, unbelievable. Cost you about $6,000 a year to own it. That's one way to look at it. Now, again, let's break this down with a rate buy down. Let's say you bought the rate down 1%, brings that overall monthly mortgage down quite a bit. Your total cost a year is $70,428, and the projected revenue again was $77,000. You are now net positive $6,700. So that rate really is important right now. A couple other things, you can put down more money, etc., but the rate is going to make a huge difference. And I wanted to look at a couple more properties real quick. I don't want to just cover high-end properties. Look, a lot of these properties on the beach or close to it are going to typically be expensive. Depends where you're looking at on the Emerald Coast, but there are other possibilities, okay? Let's look at one that is actually semi-affordable. And here's one in Fort Walton Beach, $380,000. Now, you are not on the beach. You can't see the water, but you are a few blocks away. And it's a nice little condo. Besides the carpet, if it were me, I would personally probably get rid of that carpet. You got some popcorn ceilings, It's still nice, don't get me wrong. You got a community pool, you are still close to the beach there. But I just want to show some different examples here in case your budget is not $1 million, $1.5 million, 900,000, etc. You still can look at investment properties here that could be strong. That property has projections of $62,000 to $69,000. So less than $400,000 home, and the projections are $60,000 to $70,000. Now take these with a grain of salt. What you want to do is you want to get more than one rental projection, 2 or 3 at least, just to get a good median range. But this would exceed a common rule that investors look for, which is that 10% range. That's not a end all be all, but basically let's say it's $1 million property. That means you want to make about $100,000 a year. That's the 10% rule. In 10 years, you would theoretically have made the property value back, okay? $400,000, $40,000 would be that 10% rule. This exceeds that. So on surface, that's a good investment property. Let's look at one other example here. This one is in Navarre Beach, another gorgeous condo, Gulf front. Navarre is a little quieter, a little more family friendly, still on the Emerald Coast. And this one's actually a 3-bedroom unit. So same price as that Portofino unit, that's 2-bedroom, but if you have a bigger family, maybe you need 3 beds, this would be a great unit. And also, the more bedrooms, the more you can typically ask for as far as rental income. Now, you don't have all the amenities. This is not like resort style, but you do have a pool and you got a community gym and things like that with this one. So let's look at the actual numbers on that real quick. Okay, so $103,000 a year. Again, that exceeds that 10% rule on surface. I'm not gonna actually break down the mortgage calculator on this one, but on surface, that is awesome. $900,000 property, $103,000 in revenue. And again, you'll negotiate, get the interest rate down, potentially beat them up on the price, get some closing costs, etc. So another good example. Yeah, that's a great property. Guys, these are just 4 different properties we looked at. I'm here to help analyze as many as you would like.
Guys, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. My name's Levi Fortner. I'm with LPT Realty, and I run the Fortner Group right here on the Emerald Coast. I run a successful team, and I'm a top agent, and I've gotten that way by helping my clients over the years win transactions and be a resource, a reliable resource. To me, earning the business and being trustworthy is more important than anything else. So if I can do that for you, please give me a call, text, or an email, and myself and my team will give you our dedicated attention. Also, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon. Take care.